Hey everyone, it's Heather with Tropica Exotica, and today I'm going to talk about the concept called Dark Night of the Soul. So I wanted to talk about this topic because I think that this Dark Night of the Soul might start happening to a lot of people. As I'm filming this is February 2020, so I think that this year is going to be one where a lot of truths come out. And so I wanted to kind of talk about this concept. So my own spiritual awakening started in earnest in November of 2014. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to my videos called Kundalini Activation Through Meeting Twin Flame. And I have a couple other videos on Kundalini about dreams and then also psychic experiences. So when it comes to Kundalini energy, I'll bring up my little chakra board. So Kundalini energy resides at the root chakra, and as the energy unwinds, it will go up through the chakras until the energy goes up to the crown chakra, and that will cause enlightenment. However, for most of us, we have blocks in our chakras, and so that process actually begins for us to do a certain amount of inner work and soul searching. So the Kundalini process and spiritual awakening is different for everybody. Not everybody's going to have a Kundalini activation, but definitely people should be going through a spiritual awakening process. So for me, as the energy went up through the chakras, it began to work on my blocks. So that began a internal search, an internal soul searching where, you know, a lot of times people will start to do research online, they'll start to read a lot of books, they'll watch YouTube videos. And one of the things that's kind of interesting is a lot of people end up going and finding Dolores Cannon. And so Dolores Cannon wrote several books, one of which is The 3 Waves and Volunteers of the New Earth. And then the one that I started reading after that was called The Convoluted Universe. And this was book 1. And you can see I didn't finish reading this book actually. So I think it was during reading the second book that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I believe that was probably in about March or April of 2016. And so what ended up happening was, and it's kind of hard to describe the pain, and I just remember it was excruciatingly painful. And during this process, I had talked to somebody after this, and they said that they experienced something very similar. So it's almost like the ego is trying to die, but for me, I just wouldn't let it happen. And so to give some context as to what was happening internally for me, I believe that I was processing a couple of concepts. One is that I am God, and second, I create my own reality. And so I think this concept really affected my psyche. So for me, you know, it's like I don't think that we realize just how much our psyche is affected by our core beliefs. And so I had always had this perspective that, you know, there's some God out there, you know, that there's some being that I can pray to that's got my back. So whenever I feel like I'm going through something, that, you know, there's somebody out there that can help me. So this kind of led me to, you know, well, what do I do now if there's no, you know, God figure out there, that I create my own reality? So do I pray to myself? You know, so I was struggling with that concept. And then the other big concept that I was dealing with also that came up through Dolores' books are about the Earth's history and its inhabitants. So, you know, I had started to understand about, you know, the concept of the Anunnaki and the ancient builder race, and then our connection to other galactic races as being starseeds that had incarnated here on Earth. I also learned about, you know, the reptilians that were running the show as the elite. And I also learned about the beings in Lyra and Pleiades, Sirius, and Andromeda. And of course the other extraterrestrial beings that are here on Earth. So, and I think not only that, but just the whole concept of the control mechanisms that are in place. You know, all of this stuff, and, you know, my identity, my place in the universe, and how, you know, everything that I thought I knew about myself and my place in the universe had basically been turned upside down. So the two concepts of I am God and I am not who I thought I was in this universe, it was vastly different than what I thought. And that really, I believe, caused me to have my dark night of the soul. So what it felt like for me was that process. Stop. It felt like I had nothing to stand on. I felt like my foundational beliefs had just been demolished. And I remember literally feeling like I was falling, like I had this out of control feeling, and it was totally terrifying. It also felt like a series of mini nervous breakdowns, so each one was progressively getting worse than the one before. And it just felt like this internal struggle. And I felt like my ego was trying to die, but I just wouldn't let it. And I've heard other people talk about, you know, allowing yourself to surrender, but honestly I didn't know how to do that. It was just excruciatingly painful, and it was really hard to remember that pain. I just remember that it was just horrible. It was just a horrible experience. And so during this process, my ego did not die. I think, you know, during this process, a lot of people are able to surrender and they end up having enlightenment, but that didn't happen to me. So I think that there are definitely people out there that have achieved a certain level of enlightenment, and being in the spiritual community, you will definitely come across those people. But, you know, and I consider them my teachers, but a lot of times they are not as relatable. It's harder to relate to them because they're so far out and above of where you're at. And so I think that that's really why I did not go as far as I have yet, is because I'm really supposed to try to help people along the process, and I don't think I would be able to do that if I was, you know, so far out and advanced. And so everybody's where they're supposed to be, right? So for this year in 2020, I believe that this year, that people that have not woken up yet, I think that they're going to wake up rather abruptly. And so for those of us who have gone through this process, I think we've had years to work on ourselves and go through this understanding. But these energetic waves that are coming through the galactic central sun, they're pockets of consciousness, and they are going to bring light to those areas of darkness. So we have to deal with our inner demons. There's no way around it. So for those of you who are just now starting to wake up and discover truths, you know, I know that a lot of stuff's going to be hard to process and to digest, but what I would recommend is that you go seek others to help you, and definitely try to go find your soul tribe. You can look at my other video I did on soul tribe, and that's really, really, really going to help when you can start talking about what you're experiencing, so that you can get comfort and, you know, be surrounded by people that understand what you're going through. So that's all I have for today, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.